Hey, to all of you gathered together tonight at Faith Baptist Church, I'm JD. I'm the lead pastor of the Summit Church.
J.D. Greer was basically stealing this place, as far as I'm concerned.
Our leaders closed the church. They made us start worshiping outside.
They had already told us if you're not an active member, that you were going to get arrested.
They had the sheriff's department out here.
We want to give it right back to them, don't we? We want to say, well, you didn't do this. We begin to form opinions, and then we begin to speak it.
I feel like Jason came here in the beginning to dismantle this church.
I don't understand it. I just think it was a plan from the get-go to take this place over and be in Summit.
All of these guys involved, we're going to benefit personally from this, whether it's positions, whether it's money, whether it's status.
Your church will exist no more, and everybody thinks that that's okay. In 100 years, none of these churches will exist.
Just to see the big picture of what God may be doing in this community. Is our capacity to fulfill the Great Commission together.
Your duty is to the church, my duty is to the Great Commission.
Together, we can multiply what God has given both of our churches.
The partnership together would accomplish the mission. Your duty as the pastor is to the church, first to the kingdom, then the church.
And their message was always, well, it's for the kingdom, for the kingdom, for the kingdom. And if it's truly for the kingdom, then I would think that they would want kingdom work being done, not locking the doors and trespassing
and
the
telling
congregation.
us to find another church.
Why has the preschool that was vibrant in here shut down? Why is the Spanish ministry being evicted?
Once the Spanish were told to leave the property, they didn't know where they were going to go, and we didn't know where we were going to go. If you look around this property, this is a prize. It's a $25 million asset. I don't blame J.D. Greer or anybody for saying, hey, that's a great facility and we'd like to have it. The problem is the way they went about it.
We had been lied to and coerced into something that we had no intention on voting on, the dissolution of Faith Baptist Church.
Summit Church was at the table helping draft the plan of dissolution that would shutter the doors of this church, see the assets of Faith Baptist conveyed to Summit Church in this transaction.
This building sat empty for a year.
Lloyd and I were not leaving. We helped pay for this church.
A lot of the members here didn't concur. They didn't want to give up their church that they'd invested decades of their lives. A few that had been here when the footings were dug for the original church.
They were going to steal our building and kill the entity, and they don't care what happens to it.
You're crushing a lot of hearts by doing that.
Tears were just flowing and people just couldn't believe it.
Amy Whitfield of Summit gets involved because they were running the deal.
Pastor Greer, his lieutenants were given the green light. Pastor Kivett, the campus pastor, Amy Whitfield, the director of communications of Summit. This is me extrapolating. Do what you gotta do, but keep me at arm's length.
To all of you at Faith Baptist, know that I'm praying for you. I'm praying for God's will to be done in this moment, praying for wisdom for you and your leaders, praying that you would grieve well as you end one chapter of your church's history.
J.D. Greer and Jason Little, you'd look in these guys' eyes and they will lie to your face.
And Platt,
J.D., Jason, they're like models, like just choom, choom, choom. They all look the same, act the same, talk the same. All of these guys, when you look at them, there's nothing there. It's like an empty shell.
And I told Jason, you have to honor the people that came before us.
The first step was not legal battle. We shared many concerns with Jason.
And he wasn't interested in hearing that.
The way he was looking at me like I was nothing, and nothing I can do, nothing I can do. Oh man, I'm telling you.
As scripture says, we're gonna judge angels as believers, as fellow believers, so let's bring this before the saints. Let's get a Christian arbitrable body like Peacemakers Ministries to resolve this dispute. But having been denied that, our clients really had no choice but to file a lawsuit in Wake County Superior Court.
I said, in the end, a judge is going to decide.
We had to take a stand for what was right.
I think it was 19 of us that joined together and got the lawyers.
The Lord was with us every step of the way. Everything that was done, the Lord really orchestrated.
I said, Lord, there's got to be something that I can do.
We were helping to fight with our prayers. I had to try to save my church, and praise God, that's what we did. Thank you, Jesus.
Moved here in 1987, and Knightdale's east of Raleigh, and it was nothing here. There hadn't been a new church here in years. And we met in a school here, an old school. We actually had two little churches like this. We merged them together.
The two churches would mesh well together.
It was just a natural fit. We were kind of used to the same type of church and same type of preaching, so.
We met in the school, and there was a library that we used for the sanctuary.
The first Sunday morning in May of 1989, we walked in. It was a small room, no air conditioning. God was in that place because we could feel him. We were 20-some years older than Pastor Williams, and I thought such wisdom coming out of a young man that young. By the end of May, we had joined the church, and Bobby, my husband, was the first deacon of Faith Baptist Church.
It just took off in about 3 years. We had about 350 people.
It was such a close-knit group. People sitting in the hallways to be able to hear. And
it was magical. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It just went crazy and grew.
I think people wanted to know and learn what the Bible said and not what they had learned growing up in churches.
It was vibrant. Everybody was so excited. We were bursting out of the school.
And we knew we had to move somewhere.
This was a 12-acre cow pasture. We came here and paid $165,000 cash for that, which was a lot of money then. Since then, they bought the other 18 acres between here and the road's 30 acres.
My husband, Bobby, got sick in April. He passed away in June. His funeral was probably the first or the second one that Pastor Williams had preached. My son and I kept coming and serving the Lord here in this place. July the 7th, 1991, the building was dedicated to the Lord with 350 members.
It was like a new baby, a new beginning.
Building this church was a blessing and a challenge. To be able to finally have their own place, their own land, was just a real blessing.
But we did not have enough Sunday school rooms for the young people. The building down at the corner was a cabinet shop, and the man was closing it. So the church bought that cabinet shop, and it became the youth building.
But it was phenomenal growth. We went to about 500-600 members.
And then in December the 19th, 1993, Pastor Williams preached in Genesis about Abraham and Isaac. He said, "Today I'm sacrificing my Isaac. I'm resigning."
And when I left, the next pastor came. He did a great job. He was here 24 years.
Mick Bowen came on, and the church really grew. He was on fire for the Lord. It was a new beginning for him, for us, and we just embraced it.
This church is known to be a loving, sweet-spirited church, and it's sort of exciting to see that folks can feel welcome and embraced and wanted to be here, serving God and serving this community with precious folks that I love and care about. I think our best and greatest days are still ahead.
Me and the wife and kids came here. That little sanctuary over there was packed out every Sunday. I've had a lot of people I know that go to different churches that have come here, told me that we had the best choir or the best singing of anybody they have ever heard in this area. We were blessed with talented music here.
I was a church clerk. My first assignment was to help Stan Edwards, the treasurer. We had outgrown the church over there, so they came and built this building. My son and grandson are electricians, and they wired all these buildings. A lot of people would give their service and their work to the church.
We did a bunch of stonework in here.
You know, he didn't charge a dime for that.
My dad did the grading actually on this parking lot. There's a lot of things, a lot of hours he never charged for, but that's just what you do for your church.
We filled it up. I mean, the church was going by leaps and bounds. We had a fantastic children's ministry going on. It was just like a church is supposed to be. The love was here. Great ministries going on, great Sunday school teachers. God was definitely in this place.
We had conferences, people coming singing. We had get-togethers for older people, had a lot going on for children. I mean, you name it.
Church was booming. I loved the choir. We had a big choir. I liked the fellowship.
Different ministries, missions, Awana, music, ladies ministries, Speeder's ministry, which was 55 and older, the senior program.
We relocated here in '99 from our home church in Cincinnati. We were very engaged. Treasurer, deacon, pianist.
We both participated in the music program.
Never on payroll. It was all for the ministry. It was all for the Lord, all for deposits in heaven.
He worked with the Cubbies in Awana, you know, the little ones, 20 years?
Almost 20 years until COVID, yes.
Until COVID, and then
3 and 4 year olds, it was a passion.
I worked with third graders for a while. It just felt very homey, not pretentious, just here we are, we love people, we want to love you.
Liked how friendly everybody was. So I raised my girls. I ushered for 12 years maybe. My wife was in the choir.
We have been known as the friendliest church in this area. We had a lady that hugged everybody, Miss Peggy Wall. And I used to say, well, I'm Miss Peggy's assistant. But if you don't want me to hug you, you better go when I head towards you.
Just a great family atmosphere. We're active in several ministries, nursery at times. Dana was involved with special needs kids. Been involved with the preschool for over 20 some years.
Sang in the choir. He helped out with building stuff for like the kids, you know, if they had programs and things like that. We got really involved in a marriage builders class.
So many people made it feel like home.
Yeah, neither one of us are from here.
And we didn't have any family here when we first got here, and everybody took us in like we were family.
Mm-hmm. Everybody knew everybody.
Biggest impact I feel like we had is we were youth leaders. If the doors were open, we were here.
Yeah.
And you walk in the doors and people greeted you. And it was warm and inviting.
We worshiped in this building, loved in this building, and done God's work and knew that we were doing what He wanted us to do.
I thought that was a very exciting time. Everybody was growing, everybody was thriving.
Lots to do, lots to get involved in, and we were very patriotic also. We know that we were blessed by God, so we never forgot that.
We were a vibrant church, serving the Lord and working in this community. And I've been teaching at the preschool here for 27 years.
I worked at the preschool here. The preschool was a huge godsend too, because it was affiliated with the church, and
it was wonderful. You know, it was somewhere I wanted to bring my family to, you know.
I didn't grow up in church 100% like she did. Pastor Mick's past was not growing up in seminary per se. He had a little bit of a rougher background, and I could relate to that.
And we all loved Mick.
Pastor Mick would handwrite a personal birthday card to everyone in his congregation. What pastor does that?
He would come by your house.
Knew your name.
Knew your name.
He is a true shepherd. Like he would go visit you, and when he went on vacation, if somebody needed him back here, he would leave.
His heart was for his people.
Right.
We had people come and go. A lot of memories. It would blow your mind. And one gentleman that was out on his tractor, and his little granddaughter, 5 years old, he was riding her on it. She fell off, he ran over, and she died. A member from our church went and asked him what was going on. So he told, I've killed my granddaughter. He didn't come to church here, but the church rallied around him and his family. He came, and so did the parents of that little girl. They came and joined the church. We loved on them, and we grieved right along with them. Well, that steeple on the children's church down there, our first building, it was put there by this granddaddy in memory of his granddaughter.
But it was always growing.
And it went up to about 1,500. I know at one time they were giving one year $582,000 a year to missions over and above tithes, so it just continued to grow. And that continued really till COVID.
After COVID, it was very hard to get started again, and that was also the time when Pastor Mick, he went into retirement. I had been a deacon in the past, and I was getting ready to start my 2-year term as a deacon in 2021 as well. And I bring that up because the transition plan from Pastor Mick to Pastor Jason was not openly shared with the new deacons. How the selection process went, was there any interviews? Just knew that Pastor Jason was going to be the lead pastor.
And when he came, Pastor Mick was supportive of him.
Well, he was from Knightdale.
Yeah, he was from Knightdale, so everybody knew Jason.
I personally grew up with Jason and his family, so we thought he would be a good fit.
He has a doctorate in divinity, so he was very knowledgeable, excellent teacher.
I was excited. He was biblical, he was teaching.
Before we voted, like, he came and preached several times, and we were just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Young family.
Young family, very personable. And we were like, this is gonna be phenomenal. Like, we were all excited.
And he was real nice. I mean, super nice guy.
He has a really good personality. He was somebody good to work for until it came down to the end. Then it got real stressful.
And we knew Jason Little. I've known him for 25, 30 years. And a lot of people at this church vouched for him, but you know, he went to Southeastern. We had no idea what he had turned into.
Jason had been taking classes, I found out later, at Southeastern. Well, Greer was teaching over there.
And we do know that while Jason was at seminary, he was under one of JD's classes.
I'm wondering if that's where he really looked at him like a mentor or something. He wanted to be like.
We voted him in, and it was sort of like the Pied Piper leading the children out of the village.
But it was like, it's new life. It felt like at first that it was going to take off and flourish like it once did. And
over time, we came to know the real Jason Little.
He had a smile all the time, good personality. I wanted to love him, but he didn't like me, and I could tell it. I mean, you know that when somebody keeps putting you down. He kept saying to me, just because you've been here a long time don't mean you can do this or you can do that or this. I heard that so many times, just because you've been here a long time. And I just did what I was supposed to do and what I'd always been doing. He acted like I was too old to be here. He did not respect me as an elder lady. I got this feeling when I was around him that he didn't want me here, to this place that I had been for 30-some years.
When you have new leadership, there's going to be new direction, there's going to be new, set of goals, but usually some things are also transitional. They're not, abrupt.
When he came in, he had some requirements. He wouldn't wear a suit, and he did not want a choir.
No choir.
No choir.
No orchestra.
No orchestra.
Right off the bat.
And I had been playing for 20 plus years. Ruth had been playing 20 plus years.
And none of us knew that was going to happen. The orchestra was initially told by text.
Yes, the text message came from Alex Ragland. He was the band leader, if you will. Me as a deacon wasn't informed.
And we had one of the best choirs you'd ever hear.
He walks in, he's like, we're getting rid of the choir. We just don't want people to feel uncomfortable. We just want everybody to feel like we're inclusive.
All inclusive.
Okay, some people can't get up and teach a class, but they'll get up and sing. Or they won't sing, but they'll play an instrument. And when you're taking, these are the things that people use to serve God.
The saxophone player, Thomas, his little 5-year-old daughter was killed in a terrible tractor accident. And his family paid for the steeple that's on this church. But he left. He said,
I'm not coming back.
He was so hurt.
After that meeting, he was so hurt.
But the music changed. It went south to me.
There was no transition. Where can I now serve? You're no longer needed. You're no longer valuable. And that echoed greatly with all of the folks in the choir and in the orchestra. Mm-hmm. I joined another aspect of the service, doing video. It's not about me, it's not about us. Right, we want to reach the community. It's about the gospel.
He took the flags down from off of the podium.
We've always had the American flag and the Christian flag.
Yeah, he even took the Christian flag off the stage.
Yeah.
And Jason said the flag took away from Christ.
And that was one of the first things I went to him about. I said, what reason do you take that off for? He said, well, we've got different cultures of people come here and it intimidates some of them. I said, intimidate?
Some of the veterans asked him why did he do that, and he said because it would offend somebody. And my first thought was, what country are you from? This is the United States of America.
I served the military. I saluted that flag twice every day. He said, well, that's just the way it's gonna be. He was very to the point. You could not reason with Jason.
And he'd smile.
Sweetest smile in the world, but it was his way or the highway.
I kept saying it's preferences that people are not liking, but a lot of people were leaving because of it.
Things started bringing us some concern.
Jason had lots of teams. He put us on this mission team, and he wanted to restructure the mission program.
And the finance model before was missions fund was its own, general fund was another. Jason was wanting to go to a single deposit.
Let's just say the Lord laid on your heart to give $100 to missions. You would put that on your envelope, and that went straight to missions. Well, after he brought in this thing called the Unstuck Church, whatever the offering was, he was just going to give 10% of that to missions.
No more pledges or promises or anything like that. And someone came to Jason and said, "Why are you doing this?" And he said to them, "Well, the Iflins are on board."
To gain consensus, there was a lot of the so-and-so was on board.
Oh, that's why we're on these teams.
So, you know, that
we felt used.
I think the first time that I really started questioning is when I was asked to be on this committee for the Unstuck group.
At the Unstuck group, we help pastors grow healthy churches by focusing on vision, strategy, team, and action.
The leadership had decided to bring this group in to take a look at our church. Well, how can we get it to grow? What can we do different? We had a meeting, a Zoom meeting. Pastor Jason was telling us about it, and these people are going to come in. You're not going to know who they are. They're kind of going to watch and observe.
He promoted it pretty heavily.
He promoted it. And I brought up the question, well, don't you think we should pray about this? Like, as a congregation, why do you need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to bring this group in? Like, what I had to say didn't matter. We're doing this. We've made the decision. It doesn't matter what you think.
There was a time we were sitting actually in the back corner over here, and there was a guy sitting in the row next to us with a piece of paper and a pen. And he was looking around and he was taking notes. And looking around and taking notes, and he was counting. And he would look at his watch and he'd write things down.
So much so that I was starting to get nervous because I'm like, what is this guy like? He is scoping something out, seriously. I'm like, hey Chris, like, you need to watch this guy.
And he was part of something called the Unstuck group.
Well, hey, my name is Jeff Huber. I'm lead pastor here at Summit Church in Durango, and we are excited to share with you some of the great things that we've been able to do with the Unstuck group over the last few years. We started working with them kind of as we were coming out of the pandemic, and have really helped us transition and move forward in so many different ways.
Unstuck helps promote and grow your church.
One of the keys has been meeting and connecting with other Unstuck churches. I'm looking forward to what the next few years will hold as we work with Unstuck and partner with any of you and any other churches that really, because we're all in this kingdom business together.
And what I saw is this Unstuck group, they go into churches and basically strip them down. They strip them down.
Basically like when you're selling a house.
Yeah.
You purge your house.
And basically they were selling everything on Facebook Marketplace. I would be outside cutting the grass. I would notice piece after piece after piece. I cannot tell you how many things from those rooms in there all around that were sold Facebook Marketplace pretty much. I wish I had some pictures to show you. Yeah, the kitchen, I mean, I don't know if there was anything wrong with the actual refrigerators in there, but they were sold.
You knew something was going on because of how they were stripping everything in this church down. I mean, taking everything out. They had dumpsters out there for I don't know how long. I mean, 3 big, huge dumpsters just trashing everything. Just
if it wasn't
tossing
nailed down,
it. If it wasn't nailed down, they were tossing it.
What really shocked me, the children's church over there.
Before Pastor Little was here, they had spent a lot of money on fixing up the old sanctuary for children's church and had it really nice.
Pretty work had been done over in the old sanctuary. All this pretty scenery stuff that a man hand built. Looked like a little
village. Each classroom had a theme.
It was like a garage with a half of a Volkswagen sitting in the garage, a movie theater.
He just tore up the youth area, which was awesome. It was so awesome.
They just got dumpsters and threw it all in the trash. Yeah. And they could have easily donated that to another church in the area.
Everything that we had for the youth ministry.
And all the money that it cost to remodel the children's church, that could have been used much more wisely.
$43,000 to have that all stripped out. And I told him I won't pay nothing on stripping that out. There's nothing wrong with it. Wanted to make the hallway wider. Well, hey, people have been going down that same hallway for all them years.
He had wiped it all out. It was gone. I mean, the walls are just painted white walls.
More or less sterilized it into, office gray.
Yeah, if you walk through, everything is sterilized.
Everything that you see here, this church used to be full of color. I mean, it was just vibrant with color. We had a red roof. Like, everybody knew where Faith Baptist was.
If they didn't know, it was the church with the red roof.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they knew it as.
The church itself with the student center was absolutely gorgeous. I loved it. It was unique. There was no other church that had a big red roof, and it's what we called home.
In a nutshell, he basically wiped our identity in the building here.
There was talk about taking our steeple down.
They're erasing the past. They're erasing a lot of things.
Jason started taking away ministries, and we really didn't think a lot about it to start with.
Ministries were kind of going away. He was going after like the quilt ministry people. Just didn't like it. He didn't like certain ushers at the door.
And then he didn't want Sunday schools, which I've been in a Sunday school class for 30 years, the same one.
He also did away with the Awana program.
He dropped the kids ministries. Our son didn't have anywhere to go on Wednesday nights.
Our son was very involved in Awanas. He was really starting to excel in learning the verses, and when they cut that, it hurt him, and it hurt me to not see him coming up in the church like that.
After COVID, you've got a lot of other churches that are starting to bring things back, kids programs and this and that.
He kept taking them away.
Yeah.
We did not have Vacation Bible School anymore. And as the parents left and the kids left, there were less and less ministries.
The kids are the lifeblood of the church. And they knew when they cut those programs that the parents would take them somewhere else. And that's exactly what happened.
People were leaving, going to a church where they can sing in the choir, or leaving and go to a church where their kids had somewhere to go.
Yeah. That was the biggest reason why we tried out some different churches, but nothing was ever home.
A little later, we started seeing a lot of our friends stepping away.
And every Sunday, there would be less and less, and it would break your heart. It was like a death. When you realized John and Sally aren't gone, Ben and Francis aren't gone, for example. Yeah, they're gone. We raised our babies with them. We built this place. We were family, and we loved everybody, truly.
Worked together side by side.
We had hands and feet ministry.
Ministry started shutting down the Hands and Feet of Jesus, which is a homeless ministry that me and my wife personally worked. I never got a clear explanation why. They pretty much just cut it out, didn't tell us a reason. My parents ended up leaving for good.
He dropped a lot of the senior ministries.
He stopped everything.
Hundreds of people trickled out that door over time.
Some of our staff disappear. It seemed like just about once a month they would have somebody on stage that they were letting go.
And Jason Little retired me. I was not ready, but I had no choice. And I got a plaque, a bouquet of flowers, and a broken heart. But I had remarried after 10 years of widowhood, and the whole church was for that wedding, let me tell you. And I married Al Reed, and he was teaching Sunday school here. I did not like to go to the service anymore, but he loved that Sunday school class, so I kept coming to support him in Sunday school. Well, he got sick and passed away. I never came back to church here.
There was very little empathy to the people who physically built this church. Blood, sweat, tears, prayers, money. I mean, they were cast aside like they meant nothing.
You wonder, why are they driving people away?
I think one of the main things he did that broke my heart was painting this church gray and black, because I loved my red roof in.
What is that color?
Summit gray.
No, well, I know what it is now.
I call it the communist-looking gray.
When they started painting everything, like the gray, somebody mentioned, go to Summit's website.
The neutral gray that all the builders put in the houses. Agreeable gray. That's what I was trying to
Agreeable gray, that is the color. Like, oh my gosh, these are Summit's colors. Like, that's weird. I didn't know that.
And so I went to the big campus off of Capitol Boulevard. I thought, they are right.
Pretty much all of Summit property has the same exact look. The wood plaques, the edging that was around the front door. And I brought it up, we should take like a paint chip on ours and a paint chip on theirs and match the code.
I had honestly never heard of Summit. I might have seen like a sign somewhere. I had never heard about J.D. Greer. I mean, I had heard about the Southern Baptist Convention in general.
The more I think about it,
I think he had an agenda that he was trying to work fast.
I truly feel like they were getting it ready for Summit.
Probably trying to get us to pay for some of the stuff beforehand, to be honest with you.
The longer Jason Little was here, the colder it felt. We had to make a decision. The hardest part for me in leaving this church was leaving those kids.
Yeah, and that was hard for us because we had to make that decision for our family.
I'll do anything for those kids. But I had to protect mine first. And we tried. We had multiple conversations. And it's like you're talking to a wall. There was no, well, I hear where you're coming from. It's like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Someone asked him once, how many times have you ever changed your mind?
Yes, that was asked.
When someone had tried to give you advice, and he said, none.
Jason Little, my wife and I had worked with him back at Beacon Baptist in the youth ministry for 5 years, so we knew him well. We actually endorsed Jason Little to come here. We thought that, Jason could do a lot of outreach in this area. We've got a lot of people coming in, developments going in all around this church. I work out of town, I'm gone. I work for the Department of Defense. We deal with strategy, tactics, synthetic simulations for the warfighter. And I've never considered myself a super spiritual person, I'll tell you that. I mean, I love the Lord. I've raised my kids that way. We have a Christian home. But I've never been intimately involved with the church, the business. I've never been a deacon here, a trustee. My wife and I joined a Sunday school class with a lot of the older folks. And there was a lot of talk in that class about, how the church was going, and people tried to go to the leadership and talk to them, and they weren't being listened to. One by one, people left, including deacons, quitting and leaving. And I had conversations with Jason Little about what was happening. It didn't work.
I don't see any biblical principles being broken. Some things may be questionable. If you couldn't show me biblically that he was doing something wrong, then I was still thinking that things may be okay.
We just put up with that for a while.
In 2022, I presented a lot of the financial data. I became familiar with the finances.
And also, at the end of 2022, Jason's inner circle landed on the deacon board.
All the yes men wound up being his men.
my son done the maintenance here on the ground for years, and I would help him on a Thursday. I'm retired. Give me something to do. I would see a lot of weird vehicles that I didn't recognize.
And a lot of times we would be here late doing landscaping, mulching, or blowing the parking lot.
We'd be out on the grounds working. People would come out the door, go across over there, the student center over there, and walk around, stay over there for a good while, walk back in church, walk around the property, and leave. This had been going on for a good while. Shortly after Jason took the reins, that made me suspicious. I just had a bad feeling. It just something wasn't right.
They knew what they wanted to do, and they knew that they couldn't do it with our worship leader.
He was the glue that kept us all together.
Everyone in this church loved our music director. Nobody had any problems with him. He did a great job.
And a lot of people left when he got fired.
Because that was dirty. He was done really dirty.
Yeah.
When they got rid of Sean, we probably lost a third of what was left at that point of our congregation.
Jason said, Sean is out. And here comes this little 20-year-old guy with his guitar. Come to find out, this would be the music pastor that would be replacing Sean Bradshaw. And I think everybody in the music ministry got this text with the video. And it's Jason. He looks very moved, as if he's about to weep.
This is an unscripted conversation. This morning, it was like the Holy Spirit literally flipped a switch in my heart, just convicted me of my sin against you and how I've mistreated and disrespected you as it relates to the decision about making a worship director change. I believe it was needed for a lot of reasons, and I've explained all of those in a logical way. I usually do that pretty well. But I can see now that it was disrespectful to you, it was unkind, it was unloving.
But the end would have still been the same.
I genuinely believe that we would have gotten to the same place, maybe even at the same time.
That pretty much canceled out his fake care.
My dad had confronted Jason out in the foyer.
I actually called Jason out in the welcome area publicly. I said, "Why are you doing this? Doesn't make sense." And he looked up at me and said, "I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're doing this." Well, I'm doing it, calling him out. And everybody was around too, people coming out of service.
Jason was kind of caught off guard. You know, this isn't the time, this isn't the place. And there would never been really a good time or a place. So we ended up having a meeting that night after the service.
He said, "It's not my job to keep everybody happy."
Jason said a lot of other interesting things in that meeting, like 10% of the church is in flux anyway, people come, people go, let them leave, you know. And to me, a pastor, you go after the lost sheep, you bring the sheep back. You don't want to create just issues where, yeah, there are people that will leave, but to be so flippant about it.
And we approached Jason, and he told us
he was not here to make people happy.
I said, well, you're just hell-bent, and you're not going to listen to anybody. You're not going to take advice from the older ones, which mean to help you and not harm you. He said, no, I'm not interested in making people happy. He told us we could move on down the road.
Him and his wife both would tell you, if you don't like it, leave. What kind of pastor does that? I mean, he wasn't looking after the flock. Lord, forgive me for saying that. Hurt a lot of people.
And I'd look at him and I'd say, Jason, I love you, but I don't like what you're doing. And he'd just look at me and he'd say, okay, I understand.
It was hard to meet with him. You know, he wouldn't really meet with a lot of people. He was kind of a ghost after his sermons.
Jason never did that pastoral things like visitation and do anything like that.
Jason was not a caring shepherd, but he could preach.
These are pre-done messages.
I call it the bought and paid for sermons.
All he had to do was read it, and that was his message on Sunday morning.
I'm not sure what the website was because we pretty much Googled his sermon.
Any sermon that he would preach, you could go and find it online. He was basically just reading it out of a book or something. He didn't spend all week working on his message. And plus, he would only preach 2 Sundays a month.
He needs to have time to pursue his other passions. I remember him using that word. I'm not sure what his other passions would be, but...
They weren't disclosed.
No.
He just kind of off the cuff, I need to hire somebody to help take the burden of preaching. Matt Betts.
Yeah, Matt Betts.
We start hearing we're going to have a new pastor come in from Florida.
We are in this together. The one thing that I sensed about Jason and the assistant is there was not that genuine friendliness. Ouch! Ouch! I remember the assistant pastor that he hired. He was no further from me than a few feet. I had never even spoken to him. And I just stood there looking at him, waiting for a chance for him to give me a little eye contact so I could smile or say hi. And the guy never even looked my way.
A couple months after they let go of Sean, they fired my mom, right before they were going to hand over the financials to Summit. And so my mom had to go.
Jeff, I'm connecting you with Todd, Chief Financial Officer of Summit Church. I am granting Todd full access or receipt of all our books. This is a highly confidential conversation. Thank you for your discretion.
We bought a condo at the beach, so we were spending a lot of our weekends there, and we were watching online as well, because we were no longer in the music ministry.
Many people have left by now.
Yeah, so our funding equation is getting smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah, of course. No people, no money.
Jason and team want to talk about how can we get ourselves out of this financial challenge.
They sent out a form to fill out, like, what do you think we should do?
Everybody would submit suggestions on how to raise money in the financial crunch.
So that was October. You know, we're given this short window to come up with a miracle answer.
Seems like there was a lot of good suggestions, but everything that was brought up was shot down for one reason or another.
What we learned later, things were already in motion.
Well before October 22nd.
We were at the student center one day. The Knightdale campus pastor of Summit, Kivett Hicks, pulls up in his truck, and here comes Jason. And he goes and shows him the whole student center. And then he comes over here and shows him the church.
Hi, I'm Pastor Kivett, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. We're going to have live music, hot chocolate, cookie decorating, crafts, and a special surprise.
The gospel is still the reason why we do anything we do.
December 10th, 2023, we came to the budget meeting that night.
What this is happening tonight is just a part, a small part really, of the bigger reality called the kingdom of God.
We were presented during that meeting by John Wallace going through 8 years of massive losses.
We were in the red, is what he said. We were in the red.
My buddy Bill was looking at all the graphs and the trends, and he's like, that's not right. And I said, yeah, those numbers aren't right.
A lot of pie charts were being shown with percentages, but no values. A pie chart always equals 100. And if I take something out of one piece of pie, it goes into another piece of pie because I got to keep it whole. Some staffing was turned into operations, reshuffling some of the categories. And naturally, the pie piece for staff got smaller, but the pie piece for operations got bigger.
So we have a graphic here provided to us by the Unstuck group, and this is...
And then looking at the Unstuck book, wow, this is an unhealthy church because this pie piece is too big. And I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Being a good steward means we want to be a healthy church.
We were solvent. Did we go upside down? No. Did we pull money out of savings? Not to the significant amount that they were suggesting.
I want to talk a little bit about financial history. We went back to 2016 to understand what the church finances looked like.
My wife has worked as a financial manager here. I said, I know those numbers are wrong.
Yes, we never made our projected budgets, but we never spent over our budget.
The numbers I just gave you, our savings account will not last beyond 6 months.
So when it came time for my opportunity to ask questions, I challenged it. I also asked, well, do we have a revenue or an expense problem?
An expense issue or a revenue issue? It's both. But I will point you going back to history through 2016 where the same conditions existed. The truth of it is, as you can see from the 2016 through current numbers that I've shown you, we've not been in a healthy position for years.
It hit me then. This is an op that they're pulling. And Bill's like, yeah, they planned this all along.
So why don't we talk about that?
We didn't understand it until that date. This whole thing was a conspiracy to commit constructive fraud. Now that's my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that that's what it was. You're in a budget meeting for the corporation, and you've got the chief executive officer, Jason Little. You've got the treasurer, the CFO, Lynn Gay. John Wallace is presenting, in my opinion, erroneous numbers of losses over 8 years, adding up to $1.2 million. All the leadership was present in the meeting. They sat silent while that was presented to the investors of the corporation to get a certain outcome to happen.
Our passion has to be the kingdom of God over the castle of the local church. You are the church. We are the church, not the building. It's really not about buildings and budgets.
I couldn't sit by and not do anything. To me, it was an op. It's where I work. I always look for that stuff. After they presented everything, I went forward.
Brian Alper.
Brian.
Respectfully, as the leadership team looked at removing him as pastor?
I said, has the leadership considered getting rid of Jason Little to save money?
I know from personal talking to you, he doesn't have to make people happy. So you know what happens? When people leave the church, they take their money with them. And that's really what we're down to.
And I continued on my little rant.
It's actually come to my attention recently that sounds like you're talking with Summit about maybe selling all the property.
And Jason's eyes get real big, and they definitely didn't want anybody to know that.
They didn't deny it at the time.
Do you have a question about the budget?
Yeah.
Can you
I think we can save. I think we can
Can I
save
ask
some
you one
money.
question first?
Yeah.
Are you recording me on that phone?
Absolutely.
Did I give you permission?
You don't have to in this state. It's one person. I'm the person.
Can you let everyone know what you just said? Can you let everyone know what you just said?
And I think other people would probably say, yeah, it's good I'm recording it. Okay? Absolutely, it's ethical.
Do you have any questions?
Okay, my question is, has the leadership looked at saving money by getting rid of Jason?
No, we have not.
Okay, that's my question.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion, actually, to get rid of him.
Nothing.
And, my dad walks back, and I remember all these people heckling, cackling. How could this guy's talking crazy, sell the church to Summit? They were newer folks. A lot of them were family members of staff. I was already fired up because of what they did to my mom. But then seeing the way they treated my dad when he came forward, said the truth, and then walked back to his seat, that really ticked me off.
Any idea how we got in this shape? We're asking for $9,000 a month from savings. Any idea?
It's the combination that's been pointed out earlier of expenses exceeding income. That has been a condition I pointed out to you before 2016 and throughout all time.
And I'm not raising my voice, so I'm not mad with you. I love you. I love Jason. I love this church. Okay? I'm asking questions.
Understood.
All right, we have a motion and a second to vote on the budget, and so you have that document in front of you, and so we're asking you at this time.
To me, this was spiritual. The Lord told me in my heart, I'm not going to even take the ballot because it's not a legitimate ballot. The numbers that they were showing, in my heart, I'm like, this is not legitimate. I cannot even say no on this thing. After the business meeting,
that night, Bill got a call from one of the deacons.
Another deacon that we had been close to
said, hey, we haven't seen you around as much.
And inquired, did I offend you?
Have I offended you?
Like, certainly not.
He was a gentle soul.
Very gentle.
Anyway, we really thought he was calling us a friend. Well, have you been going to other churches? And he said, yeah, we've looked around. We haven't
looked
going
around.
Anywhere.
We're still looking.
Didn't say we're leaving, not coming back.
I was considered an active member, was offered a ballot on December 10th. December 11th, and it's recorded in the audit log of our church planning tool that my status and her status went from active to inactive member on December 11th by Stanton, who is the music lead. His fingerprints were in the active log.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't learn that until later.
Meet Daniel Simmons and Amy Whitfield spent a while in prayer over the phone last night over you and Faith. Praying the Monday morning hangover isn't too bad, and that you're able to breathe today.
Thanks so much, bro. Love you too. Everything passed, despite a little drama, and I was able to plant seeds for Kingdom Partnership.
So I believe it was the next Sunday I came in and I got my coffee and visited out in the lobby. John Wallace and Lynn Gay both started to approach me and said, why do you still come? I said, I got friends here. Oh, by the way, Lynn, I said, what you guys presented to the membership of Faith Baptist Church is called financial fraud. And he looked at me, he got all red, because he always gets red. And he said, you can ask Mick. I said, I'll ask Mick. He said, you can ask Andy, the prior financial director. I said, I'll ask Andy. And he said, and your wife. And I said, now you be careful, Lynn. And he stopped. And you know what he said to me? He said, you're a demon. He called me a demon. My wife and I called the prior financial director. And when we told him the numbers, he said, not true, all lies. It's not true, we didn't lose that money.
So then they come out and they formally announce that we're now going to merge with the Summit.
January 21st.
January 21st is when they were mentioning that we're going to go ahead and have a merger.
Yes.
We were told that Summit was willing to come alongside us and help us out of the financial burden that none of us knew we were in.
There was a lot of folks that started not getting emails because they were finding out they were either active members or inactive members, something that had never been a thing in Faith Baptist Church history.
As many years as we had already been here, we had never heard anyone designated active, inactive. We hadn't even used those terms.
We didn't check that in previous votes or at the business meeting.
Never,
that was
ever.
Never challenged.
Summit didn't mean anything to me when I brought it up. I didn't know anything at the time about J.D. Greer. I didn't even know Summit was a megachurch, but it didn't matter, right? We were losing our church.
This is my home church. Jason started talking about Summit Church. I said, Jason, I was behind you till you started talking Summit, but I've got to try to save my church. And he gave me that little smile he always had and said, well, we can agree to disagree.
We met in my living room with a lot of the senior saints, most of them.
And it was a broken bunch of people. And you could see it in their eyes. They were hurt that their church was going to be gone. They were uncertain as to the future. They felt like they had the rug pulled out from under them.
We knew at that point that this was not our fight. It's God's fight.
Defenders of Faith was a nucleus of people, me and Lloyd included, that our money, our heart, our whole lives had been here at Faith Baptist Church. And we started developing a plan.
I said, if we're gonna do something, it's gonna have to be in court. I had a coworker come up to me. She said, my law firm has a bunch of great people that are good Christian guys. And I said, well, I've already talked to one attorney, but you can just see what they say. I get a phone call about an hour later. It's one of the attorneys in the firm, give him the whole rundown. And he says, well, let me get James Lawrence. 10 minutes later, James Lawrence calls and he says, all right, Brian, what do you got going on?
My wife and I were at the beach. It was 80 degrees. We were having a weekend away from our, at the time, 5 kids. The call comes in about this situation that was arising here.
The Defenders of Faith
first reached out in a very Christ-like letter
to the then senior pastor, CCing a number of the trustees of the church, asking specific questions so that we could ensure that a clean, fair vote would take place. We also raised questions about how the merger fit against the backdrop of the church's bylaws. There is an affiliations provision inside the bylaws.
This church shall be strictly independent, self-governing in all matters, and it shall not be a member of any denomination.
If we merged with Summit, we would become a part of the Southern Baptist Convention. We wanted to remain independent Baptist.
In that initial letter, again, we were asking for the membership list.
And we wanted to be discreet about it. Can we have the roll and can we have the financials?
And at that point, it was just a letter. And everyone was clear from the beginning, we do not want our names on this.
And Bill and I were going to be the face, and we had kind of agreed to that.
And whether it was just an accident, whether it was providence, I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, the end document had everybody's name on it.
There's our name.
And there I am, an employee of the church.
When everyone found out that their names were on it, there was a little bit of backlash. But I think everyone looking back would say that was where you kind of took a stand. Whether people think differently of us, whether the pastor likes it, whether the deacons treat us differently, it doesn't matter. What's right is right.
We were looking for information, but we were also conveying on behalf of our clients their sincere concerns about the direction of their church and their love for the current leadership. It's right there in black and white. Our clients giving a heartfelt account that they are thankful for the senior pastor, that they've benefited from various aspects of his ministry, and that they were coming to the church leadership in a spirit of conciliation, not trying to provoke conflict or create controversy, but to reach out to fellow believers in the spirit that our Lord instructs us in Matthew 18, to have a discussion, to try to resolve issues proactively.
Our lawyers are calling bull crap on a good bit of that letter.
That's good. I figured as much.
After the letter was sent, Faith Baptist General Counsel, Mr. David Gibbs III, and his law firm became involved in representing the church. So those initial conversations yielded the active member list and an inactive member list. And our clients had the opportunity to review that active member list. We identified a number of people who had been shifted from active to inactive status. And we asked for those members that we believe to be wrongfully shifted to inactive status to be placed back on the active member list so that they could vote. What happened next was a critical point for how we got here.
Things were moving very fast to have that vote. Okay, we could tell
Yeah, they were
that.
really pushing it, really pushing it.
We asked for the voter roll issue to be corrected, for people like Mr. Iflin to be put back on the active list so that they could cast a ballot on the future of this church. But what our clients were met with in that regard was a refusal to do that. Not only a refusal to do that, but a promise that if inactive members decided to show up for the vote, that they would potentially be no trespassed off the property by off-duty law enforcement.
Hey, Faith Baptist Church, like many of you, I've been praying about the possibility of your church and our Knightdale campus joining together. Tonight, you're learning a lot more of the details surrounding this opportunity, but I wanted to begin personally by lifting all of our eyes upward, just to see the big picture of what God may be doing in this community. Through the merger, we can do better together than we could apart. The bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? The advancement of the Great Commission. They will take over your church as a partnership. If the plan is approved, Faith Baptist does not exist. And you're fine with that.